We have the densest city in the world. And apparently the city had a secret. A strange secret. Honestly, I only clicked on this. This was not recommended. This was just in my feed. I clicked on it because the title lured me in. It's like I was curious. So yeah, that's why we're watching it. Welcome in YouTube. I hope you had a lovely time. And buckle in. Let's find out what the strange secret is in this dense city, which I honestly don't know what the densest city in the world is. I don't know that either. Meow. You. I'm gonna put myself over here.
First started looking into the Kowloon Wall City, also known as the densest city in the world. We thought for a place.
Okay, so if we go back at the graph. Holy moly, what the heck? Excuse you? That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. Wow.
The world. We thought for a place that's essentially a slum, full of crime, drugs, and inhumane living conditions. There's sure a lot of romanticization about this place. In Japan, they even built a giant arcade that mimics parts of the city. And
whoa,
I get it.
That's crazy.
It looks like it came straight out of some dystopian sci-fi
It
novel.
does, honestly.
A giant mega...
Oh, I love the stray. I love the usage of stray in there.
Structure. Part architecture, part living organism. It's like a real-life manifestation of Hive City. And it's actually something architects...
Holy man. That is so crazy. That's beautiful as well.
...have been dreaming about for years. One continuous structure where you can access all the necessities of daily life that evolves and grows with time. But there's also stories after stories from people who's lived there or visited there that claim to have fond memories of this place, describing it as an energetic, industrious patchwork of chaos with a strange, compelling beauty.
I mean, yeah, I can see it.
Beauty. How could this possibly be beautiful? So, Kowloon Wall City, could it be more than just chaos?
Like, look at it. It looks so weirdly dystopian that it's actually really cool. I don't know if I'd like living there, honestly. Yeah, it has a charm to it. But that's a lot of people living there.
I want to give you a sense of how dense it was. Here's the density of LA, New York, Hong Kong, and Kowloon Wall City. And it almost tripled in population in just a few decades. So how did this happen? Kowloon Wall City was a city within the Hong Kong territory that was technically a part of China. Over its lifespan, from this small Chinese military fort hundreds of years ago to this, it was used as a political pawn between the conflict between China and Britain, where both parties were more interested in exerting power than actually governing this piece of land. In the end, the tension became unsolvable, so both parties decided to take a hands-off approach. So it was left alone. And without any government control or police presence, it just grew and grew, almost like a living organism. Buildings were built cheaply and quickly to accommodate the huge influx of migrants.
Oh my god. Ew.
A mass number of Chinese refugees flooded here after World War II, because it was known as the only Chinese enclave that the Hong Kong government couldn't touch. But after that, it included anyone and everyone from gangs, criminals, to doctors, to entrepreneurs, trying to escape poverty or trying to capitalize on this unregulated haven. Crime naturally flourished there, with gangs, drugs, brothels, whatever you can think of. If you had an industrial business, you could ignore the fire codes, labor codes, or safety codes.
Wow.
So you could produce goods at a fraction of a cost.
That's
you could also sell things
insane,
that were banned anywhere else, like dog meat. With unbeatable prices, industry kind of thrived there. And lots of things made their way back to Hong Kong, China, and sometimes even overseas. They were known especially for their fish balls.
For their fish what now?
The more we learned about it, there was this idea that kept popping up. The rhizome. But it's kind of complicated concept,
Rhizome?
so I'm gonna hand it over to Cindy, our research assistant and Hong Kong native.
rhizome 就好似粒蔥嘅根莖咁，
The roots of green
你
onions,
唔
they
揾
keep
到佢
growing,
主軸
huh?
或者中心點，佢會隨性咁向唔同
It
方
grows
向伸長，
spontaneously in different
成個結
directions.
構都係連結嘅。
All right,
Nodes can be
let's try again.
intersected.
To explain, we have Raf, our Italian filmmaker.
Honestly, that makes
Actually,
sense.
it's like this plate of pasta right here. Since they are so entangled
Why are they all explaining it with food? Oh my god, I love this.
together, you can't really see the beginning or the end. It's like a decentralized network. Deleuze and Guattari use their rhizome as a metaphor for a new model of thinking that could affect society, philosophy, and culture. This could help us make connections in unexpected ways. What the heck is this?
It's good.
Actually, pretty good.
呢個就係 rhizome 美好嘅位啦。
This is the beauty
The
of
first
rhizome.
rule of the rhizome.
I
is that
like
it's
the way they
multiple
explained it.
Multiplicities without a structure. Let me explain. So, in a traditional city, you have your city grid, and they get populated with buildings with functions that are determined by your planning department. You have your circulation at the base, and that's how you get from here to here. But in Kowloon Wall City, buildings would get built, leaving these small gaps for air and light, but very quickly they get filled with stairways, which sometimes connected 2 or 3 or 4 buildings. The city had
Okay.
around 350 buildings, but eventually they all merge into one giant megastructure. The rooftops would connect, forming one giant rooftop, and
That
even
is
the residential
crazy.
units were connected to each other. And since not all of the units had electricity, it allowed them to share things like power out of a single source. It especially allowed businesses to expand strategically and organically. Let's look over here. This is a strip club, but the real money was in gambling. So they connected these two buildings to lure people in with the strip club and eventually bring them down here.
Oh
So
my
new
god!
buildings could attach and be integrated to existing structures.
Dude, this being a real place in the world is like fascinating. It's like, wow. Wow.
And with every new building, new circulation paths are formed, which evolve and expand with the growth of the city. And at the intersection of these stairs or alleys, nodes would organically emerge. Here, we see a small convenience store that serves the people living in the upper story so they don't have to travel all the way down. The city also only had a few roads that had some semblance of order. Over here and here, we had the commercial areas. Because of their direct connection to the outside, it was full of shops and clinics and factories that naturally gathered on the ground level. Chinese doctors and dentists who couldn't afford to get re-licensed in Hong Kong set up shop here, and they offered their services for bargain prices, which
Hey,
attracted customers
apothecaries.
from even outside of the city. Residential units sat on the levels above, and this created some of the most attractive units in the city thanks to the daylight. This street is
That is very true. That having daylight would actually really be good, yep.
called Kwang Ming Street, directly translating into light and bright, because apparently it was always lit up at night because drug addicts would come here and get high.
Oof.
Both these areas had lots of factories. You could get vehicle access here and water access here, so food factories naturally gathered in this area. But most of the
Makes
residents
sense.
actually moved through the hundreds of alleys and secret paths, which all twisted and turned, stepped up and down, and cut through multiple buildings. So unlike a typical city, where you have one point of connection, you have multiple points of connection vertically and horizontally between multiple spaces. In fact, it would be impossible to map the entire network of the city with conventional mapping methods.
That is
So
so,
if you can't
cool.
map it, and without traditional landmarks or views, how do they navigate a city like this?
You get used to it though.
Kowloon generic romance, based in Kowloon Wall City. It's a little risque, but there's a recurring theme: memory and nostalgia.
They needed video game apps. Press tab to have an overlay to know where you're going. Can you imagine the addition of augmented reality for them, like where you're mapping it and you have like augmented reality just showing you the way where you're going and everything, constantly being updated and changed. Damn.
Here, the protagonist goes up to a shop and feels certain romantic feelings for her colleague, but the next day, she can't find her way back to the same shop. Living here means you need to create your own unique mental map that's tailored to your personal experiences and routines. There's not one map of the city, but 33,000 different versions of Kowloon Wall City that evolves and updates just as the city transforms over time. It's interesting
That
because
is so
Toulouse and
cool.
Guattari also argue that a map should never be a static representation, because that fixes your thinking about a certain place.
It's kind of like how I knew to get to my mom's workplace because my dad would drive there. So I know how to map from my home to my mom's workplace, like in my mind. I know how to get there. Despite everything changes, I know my route to go to that place. It's forever ingrained in me. But if you ask me, like, I don't know, about the street, I don't know the street name. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how I'm getting there. But I know how to get there by visually traveling there every single day. Like just every day going there. So I assume it's the same for their residents, right? You kind of like memorize where you're going. And as things change around you, you update your mental map.
When your idea of a thing is fluid and evolving, you can be much more creative in how you use that thing. So, in that sense, the city becomes not just a backdrop, but an active participant in the shaping of the memories and identities of the residents.
You make your own landmark, exactly. This is fascinating. Holy hell.
But unlike a rhizome, Kowloon Wall City had a boundary. A very abrupt boundary. So, Kowloon Wall City started as a military fort, with an actual wall around it. That's where the name came from. They built this fort after Britain occupied Hong Kong as a way to create a visible Chinese military presence near the new British colony. But during World War II, Japan had taken over swaths of China, including Hong Kong, and when they needed building materials to expand the nearby airport, they just took the walls of Kowloon Wall City. When Chinese refugees flooded
To shut up, man. It's like in Minecraft. Oh my god. For real. They needed building materials. That wall looks nice. Yoink. Oh.
to Hong Kong after the war, they instinctively gravitated towards the walled city. And even without a physical wall, these new buildings were built almost the exact same footprint of the original wall, forcing it to expand upwards and inwards. It's probably one of the conditions that forced it to become such an interconnected city, but also what made it deteriorate so quickly over time. This was the only place in the city where you could actually see the sky and get some fresh air, and it was also the social heart of the community. And in fact, even though they didn't have a government, the residents self-organized to fix problems as they came up. To deal with crime, they formed groups of volunteers to escort single women, and when the Hong Kong government released plans to demolish the city, they organized the Kowloon City Anti-Demolition Committee that fought against the plan for years. Even the 5 triad gangs organized garbage cleaning teams and settled disputes between businesses. The courtyard was built around the Yamen, the office building from the ancient military fort built back in 1845. The building went through multiple hands, from the Christian Evangelist Commission, where they held schools, to the Old People Center. But it was preserved, and the courtyard as a whole became so essential to the community that the community restricted any new construction in this area. I think the preservation of this courtyard is kind of fascinating. It speaks to our need for continuity and stability, even in an ever-evolving chaos like Kowloon Wall City. It speaks to our natural tendency to gravitate around any kind of link to the past, and how these physical anchors can become the bedrock of a community.
Yeah, I mean, it's very It was very important, right, to have like a place where everyone can recognize, and that's like your place for community, or like and when it became a school, right, in the middle, straight in the middle, so everyone can reach it. It's kind of fascinating, but also it does make sense. Trying to move a couch. I feel like they had their own type of like IKEA made furniture over there. They had to, right? With the way that everything's built. Like the people that were making stuff.
The Yamen buildings are all that remains of the city now. In 1994, Kowloon Wall City was finally demolished, and what was once a chaotic, pulsating hive of human life has been replaced with a peaceful Chinese garden. I'm sure it was necessary,
kinda sad.
but I can't help but feel a weird kind of emptiness. This raw, gritty, energetic urban anomaly has been sanitized, erased.
It's kind of sad that it's actually gone. Damn. It makes sense because, like, I guess age and constantly building upwards is probably not very good or stable, but damn, that is sad. That is no longer there.
From this world, existing only in the minds of people who live there, but quickly fading into distant memories, into hazy dreams, or even nightmares. But there's also a belief that the essence of a place, its soul, can transcend a physical dimension. So maybe the spirit of Kowloon Wall City still lingers on. I want to know what you guys think about this crazy city. Let me know in the comments. There were some really fantastic books that we referenced in our research.
It's honestly
some were
beautiful.
Super analytical, some were extremely beautiful, and some were extremely rated R. If you're interested in any of these, we'll leave them in the description. We also have a research booklet if you guys want to check it out. I'll leave that in the description as well. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!
This was a really cool video. I'm glad I clicked on it. I am honestly glad I clicked on it. It was very awesome to see the architecture. I'm kind of sad that it got demolished recently. I would have wished to learn about it beforehand. But like, just the pure architecture of it and what was happening in there, right? Like, it's so cool to think about having things super interconnected and like super how should I put it? Having them made by people for people and with like just no regulation or nothing in mind, like seeing how that city evolved and became what it was. It's kind of fascinating, just seeing that level of community. A trip there would have been interesting, yeah. To be fair, there are like a couple of cities that I do want to visit that have a similar concept that are still up and about. There are a lot of cities that are built with like height in mind, where you have multiple layers, and it looks really confusing. Yeah, I don't think I would like to live there. I think like the amount of stuff that would happen there at night even is just like it's too much. But I would definitely like to visit or stay there for a while and just see where it takes you, right? Like explore and see what you find and like how different districts would have been and stuff like that. It's just cool to think about. This was awesome. As usual, YouTube, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching until the end. It means a lot. And I shall see you next time. Please leave a comment if you can, and like, subscribe, because it really helps the algorithm. But regardless, if not, I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!